The Tate brothers' recent flight to the United States was absolutely not a sign of freedom or exoneration. The common belief spun across social media is that Andrew Tate is finally winning his legal battles, that Romania's human trafficking case has collapsed, and that the travel ban being lifted proves his innocence. You saw the posts, the triumphant private jet photos, the claims that innocent men don't run. But that is the expectation. The reality, backed by court filings, timelines, and a web of legal maneuvers in 3 different countries, Romania, the UK, and now the US, is far more complicated and far more risky for the brothers. This trip was not a victory lap. It was a necessary, meticulously planned tactical pivot in a global legal war that is costing millions and spans multiple serious criminal and civil allegations, all of which the brothers continued to deny. We have dug through the court rulings, mapped the convoluted timeline of multiple indictments, and factored in the PR strategy to understand the real high-stakes game being played. Over the next few minutes, we'll cut through the noise and answer the 3 key questions no one is talking about. What specific legal loophole allowed the Tates to temporarily leave Romania despite facing charges? Why was going to the US the critical move in their defense strategy? And what expensive US-based cases are they fighting there? And finally, how does this temporary travel affect the looming UK extradition request and the long-term timeline of the main Romanian trial? Let's start with the one development that has the most immediate threat potential and shows why the US trip was a necessary danger, not a safe haven. This is the part of the story that most casual observers have missed entirely. The most shocking legal development tied to this entire saga is that the Tates walked directly into a new, parallel criminal investigation the moment they landed in America. Remember, the main narrative is that they were free to go home, but the truth is, a new case had just been announced. Why would they fly to a country where they know the state attorney general is already waiting? This whole situation is a high-stakes legal gamble. The Tates are dual US and British citizens, and just days before their return, the Florida Attorney General's office publicly confirmed that it had opened a preliminary criminal investigation into both Andrew and Tristan Tate. Per the Attorney General's social media statement on March 4, 2025, his office directed law enforcement to begin an inquiry into the brothers. The allegations in Romania are already serious, but a separate state-level criminal investigation in the US adds a new layer of risk, a new jurisdiction, and new prosecutors to the mix. Why is this so significant? The Romanian case is complex, and the brothers' lawyers have a clear strategy of delay and appeal, which has created a travel window. But a new criminal case in the US changes the battlefield entirely. It means that evidence that might be stuck in the Romanian legal system could be processed differently in the US, opening a second front in the criminal war. Furthermore, when the brothers landed, a Homeland Security official confirmed to ProPublica that baggage examination and detention of all electronic media devices was performed. This suggests US authorities were prepared for their arrival and were looking for information related to an ongoing probe. The fact that the Tates went anyway suggests the US trip had a higher mission-critical priority than avoiding a new criminal probe. The risk was worth the gain, but what was the gain? This leads us to the biggest reveal in the entire complex web of lawsuits and counter-lawsuits. The real primary reason for the trip was not just to see family or take a break, it was to physically prosecute a high-stakes multi-million-dollar defamation case against their accusers. The strategic counterattack is the single most important and overlooked motive for the US travel. While the media focuses on the criminal charges, the Tates have been quietly fighting a costly civil war. The brothers filed separate defamation lawsuits in Florida in July 2023 against several of their accusers. In these civil lawsuits, the Tates are seeking significant financial damages, reportedly in the millions of dollars. The complaint was filed in Palm Beach County, Florida, where the remaining defendants, including one of the accusers, are American citizens and residents. A lawyer specializing in crisis communications would tell you this is a massive intimidation tactic designed to put extreme financial and emotional pressure on the alleged victims by forcing them to fight legal battles on their home turf. More importantly, this kind of multi-million-dollar lawsuit requires the plaintiffs, the Tate brothers, to be present, accessible, and working directly with their US-based legal teams on discovery, depositions, and preparing their case. The Florida civil case required their immediate attention, making the US a crucial legal location. They needed to be physically in America to pursue the financial and reputational revenge they claim is necessary to clear their name, even going so far as to publicly denigrate one of the women as a serial extortionist, a claim the woman and her lawyer vehemently deny. This legal offensive is a costly and high-risk gamble, but the sheer financial scale of their online empire, estimated at millions of dollars per month in revenue, means they have the funds to wage this kind of civil battle indefinitely. The U.S. trip was a legal imperative driven by their own counteroffensive, making their return home a necessary part of the strategy, regardless of the new criminal risk they faced there. Now, how did they even get permission to leave Romania in the first place when the official story is a trafficking case? The mechanism that allowed their travel is rooted in what the defense calls procedural irregularities in the original Romanian indictment. The common belief is that the case is active, but the court process has been anything but smooth. After the brothers were formally charged in June 2023, the case entered the pretrial phase, a crucial step where the judge reviews the evidence before a trial can even begin. And in December 2024, a Bucharest court made a stunning decision, ruling that the case against the Tates could not go to trial because of multiple legal and procedural irregularities found in the prosecutor's case file. Now, let's be absolutely clear. This ruling did not close the case. The case remains open, and prosecutors immediately went to work correcting the errors. But this ruling created a significant legal loophole. Because the trial itself was indefinitely delayed due to the prosecution's errors, and because the initial judicial restrictions were tied to the pretrial phase, the Tate's legal team successfully argued for a relaxation of the travel ban in February 2025. This was a technicality. The charges still stand and a new, corrected indictment is expected, but the temporary limbo created by the prosecutor's mistake was the key that unlocked their private jet. Prosecutors agreed to modify the travel ban, but only under strict judicial control. The agency that indicted them, DI, explicitly warned the brothers that deliberately violating their obligation to appear whenever summoned could result in judicial control being replaced with a stricter custodial measure. It was a technical win that came with a mandatory return ticket. This technicality is also the reason they haven't yet been extradited to the UK, which is the third major case hanging over their heads. Most people forget there's a serious UK front to this story that is still very much active. The UK authorities have issued an arrest warrant for both Andrew and Tristan Tate for allegations of sexual aggression and human trafficking, with accusations dating back to 2012 to 2015. In March 2024, a Romanian appeals court actually approved the UK's extradition request. So why aren't they on a flight to London instead of Bucharest? The same court that approved the extradition also ruled to postpone the handover until the legal proceedings in Romania are completely finished. An expert in international law would explain that the Romanian trial, though delayed by procedural flaws, still takes legal precedence because the charges there are more severe and were filed first. The UK extradition is a sword hanging over their heads, but it remains sheathed until the Romanian criminal case, the human trafficking and rape charges, is resolved. The Tate's entire legal strategy in Romania, including appeals and challenges to evidence, serves a dual purpose: delay the Romanian trial to keep the UK extradition on hold, while also fighting the case they claim is politically motivated. Furthermore, there's a separate UK civil case against Andrew Tate by 4 women for alleged rape and coercive control, with a potential trial date set for 2027. This multi-front war is designed for maximum exhaustion. This brings us to the biggest contrast between the expectation and the reality, the PR narrative versus the actual facts. When the brothers landed back in Bucharest after their US trip, Andrew Tate made a definitive public statement, saying they returned because innocent men don't run from anything. This is the carefully crafted PR narrative of strength and compliance. The reality is that Romanian authorities had explicitly warned them that their temporary travel was approved under judicial supervision and that deliberately violating their obligations, including any summons, could result in the judicial control being replaced with a stricter custodial measure, meaning jail time. Per their own legal counsel, the Tates were obliged to return for a court appearance on March 24, 2025, or face a potentially higher custodial measure. It was a mandatory return, not a choice based on moral virtue. The entire travel sequence, going to the US, handling the critical civil lawsuit business, and then returning was a meticulously scheduled and legally cleared maneuver, not a spontaneous act of defiance or a proof of innocence. This is a masterclass in public relations, where a mandatory legal requirement is spun into a bold statement of confidence, which is what led to the triumphant statements upon their return. In review, the Tate's US trip was a moment of peak expectations versus cold reality. The expectation was that the case was over, but the reality is the Romanian criminal case is merely paused due to a technical flaw that created a temporary travel window. The expectation was freedom, but the reality is they went to the US to aggressively prosecute their multi-million-dollar defamation countersuits against their accusers, only to walk directly into a new criminal investigation launched by the Florida Attorney General, as well as have their electronic devices seized by Homeland Security. The expectation was that they were running from nothing, but the reality is they are actively delaying two other major threats: the long-term UK civil abuse case and the approved but postponed UK extradition warrant. The takeaway here, based on all the evidence and legal maneuvers, is that this is not a legal fight, but a war of attrition. The Tates have the wealth and platform to turn every defensive legal action into an aggressive PR statement and a long, drawn-out civil battle.
The system is being exploited not by a single escape, but by a cascade of technical challenges, political pressure, and deep-pocketed countersuits designed to put maximum pressure on everyone involved. To truly understand how this playbook works and to follow the rest of the global celebrity legal machine, you need to be following our Fresh Celebrity playlist right now. Click on the video on your screen to see which other stars are using the exact same PR legal strategy to turn their biggest scandals into profitable online narratives. You do not want to miss the next chapter of the Tate saga, and you'll find it only in our next exclusive video in that playlist.